What's up, guys? It's Randa. And if you know me, you know that I would not be me if I did not talk about each and every little bit of Life is Strange news that we get. So with that being said, today we are going to delve into the little tidbits of news that we've gotten over the last few days, including the remastered collection, the Wavelengths DLC, and those just other little tidbits. With that being said, let's get the slightly sad news out of the way first. Deck 9 has announced that the remastered collection of Life is Strange and Before the Storm will be delayed until early 2022 in order to give the developers time to finish that up and to not be like at a crazy crunch at that time at the end of the year. Honestly, I think this is a smart decision. They're being really self-aware and not stretching themselves too thin. And they're also not having to delay the actual new game itself in true colors. Crunch is already historically a huge problem for studios when they're getting ready to launch a game, and they also cited the ongoing challenges of the obvious worldwide pandemic, so I really applaud them for having that awareness to know that they needed to take a step back and reassess that launch timeline for some of it. Everyone who has pre-ordered the remaster collection will still get it on its new drop date. It won't affect your new pre-order at all, and you'll still have True Colors to enjoy in the meantime. We did also get the news that True Colors will be delayed on the Nintendo Switch until sometime later in 2021. I haven't seen a set release date for that now. That could be something I've missed, but as of right now, True Colors is still set to release on the PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on September 10th as planned. Meanwhile, they also dropped news that the first DLC for True Colors will be called Life is Strange Wavelengths, and it will actually drop on September 30th, so just a few short weeks after True Colors itself drops. The studio is also apparently pandering specifically to who I am as a person, because we have learned that this DLC will be centered around Steph. God, do they know how to get my money, but they know it, I know it, and I'm still gonna get it, so, I know who I am, I stand in my truth. Wavelengths is a prequel to True Colors, and from what we've seen in the trailer and the news they've released so far, we will be joining Steph from her very first day as a radio DJ in Haven Springs, all the way through 4 distinctive seasons. So it seems like we'll be getting some seasonal vignettes or chapters. So obviously, spring, summer, fall, and winter, but they will be kind of typified by specific events for each season, like Pride for summer, Halloween for fall, and New Year's for winter. And we'll get to follow Steph through those moments and watch as she settles into Haven Springs and begins to build her reputation as a local radio DJ. And it also seems like the radio booth and the record shop will also evolve with Steph as she builds her reputation until it reflects the livelier atmosphere that we saw in the True Colors trailer. I'm super excited for the music-centric elements of the DLC because the Life is Strange series always has really terrific soundtracks that pair wonderfully with the stories they tell, and the music that they already debuted in the trailer for Wavelengths suits that universe so well. They have some really terrific artists already signed on for this. I don't have the list right in front of me right now, but I know just off the top of my head we had Haley Kiyoko, Alt J, Portugal the Man, Local Natives. It showed her playing one of their records in the trailer. So yeah, I couldn't be more excited to hear the whole ambiance they've created for Wavelengths with the tracks as they've licensed. And I'm also very curious to see how much of an active role we as Steph will have in maybe selecting some of the music, whether that will be something we have a choice in what we play in the radio booth. We'll see. It's up in the air either way. They always nail it with the music, so super looking forward to that. In addition to the story of Wavelengths, it seems like we're also going to get some other interesting elements to both to flesh out what we know about Steph already and to learn more about her. We did get a sneak peek of her playing D&D on a video call with Mikey, who is looking all grown up since we saw him last in Before the Storm, so that's really exciting. It's really good to see that she's kept in touch with Mikey and is presumably still DMing for him, even if they're doing it long distance now. And it was good to see that Mikey has obviously kept up with his art since we saw several of his drawings posted up behind him in the video call. I would bet that Mikey could be a very strong avenue for unlocking information about what Steph has been up to since we saw her last, and maybe what led her to go to Haven Springs in the first place, since he's her best friend and he might try to get her to open up about things. Maybe we'll even get some references to Chloe or Arcadia Bay or things like that. You never know. But I wouldn't be surprised if that became some element of their conversations to some degree, depending on how much we'll get to interact with Mikey in the DLC. We also saw that Steph has all of her DM stuff set up for her D&D video call with Mikey, so I will be absolutely stoked if we get to play another session or two like we did in Before the Storm. I personally was a huge fan of those and thought they were like a really fun addition to the story. I know some people felt differently, but like even in Before the Storm, you had the option to choose whether you wanted to do them or not. So, that could be a thing in Wavelengths too. You can maybe have the choice to opt in or not. If you choose not to, that's fine. You're entitled to your wrong opinion. Who am I to stop you? And to build upon what we already know about Steph from Before the Storm, and knowing that Pride is one of the seasons in the DLC, dating apps are apparently going to be a part of Wavelengths. It'll be interesting to see how much flexibility and player choice there are in those sections, whether it's more linear or whether we'll actually have the opportunity to maybe pursue some of those matches at some point in the story. We'll see. Either way, I think it's a cool addition. Very excited to see how they implement that. We did get one interesting tidbit from Steph's dating profile in the trailer, which is that she is 24 in this prequel. That kind of raised some twofold questions for me, since it means we have a better idea of how long it's been since she was at Blackwell Academy in Before the Storm. But it also makes me wonder both what she's been doing in the interim since that, and also how long this prequel is set before the events of True Colors when Alex shows up in town. The trailer mentions that she quit her band to be there in Haven Springs, so maybe she's been touring with the band since high school, maybe it's a more recent development, we just don't know yet. I'm curious to see if we learn any more about her reasons for ending up in Haven Springs, especially since she says that she is just trying to, quote, do something she can really get into. So maybe she was feeling uninspired in her life and with the band and wanted a fresh start. Maybe there was some kind of fallout that made her look for work in a brand new location. We're not sure yet, but I, for one, am very curious to find out. Another thing I'm curious to see is if we'll get to spend more time with some characters like Gabe. I'm sure there will be some familiar faces, obviously, since the game and the DLC are both set in Haven Springs, and it seems to be a pretty small town. But Gabe is particularly interesting to me, personally, because I think we're probably not going to see very much of him in True Colors itself, aside from the very beginning when Alex first shows up, and maybe any flashbacks if we possibly get those. I just think it would be very interesting to be able to retroactively learn more about a character who will be so important to the story later on, just like we did with Rachel Amber in Before the Storm. Deck 9 already did a great job with making Rachel her own fleshed out, fully realized person in Before the Storm, so I think it would be a great opportunity to do the same for Gabe, especially since this DLC was obviously developed much more closely in conjunction with the timeline of them working on True Colors as well, so they could have been thinking about the game and the DLC as a whole throughout this whole process, more than likely. Overall, I am very excited about this DLC and the fact that we are getting it so quickly after True Colors releases. Most of what we saw in the trailer was contained to the radio booth and the record shop. We didn't get to see too much of Haven Springs beyond the kind of like Main Street area that we had already seen in the True Colors trailers. But it all has a very chill, cozy vibe that I think really suits Steph as a character and the Life is Strange universe as a whole. Hopefully we will get to do a little exploration around the town itself, just so we can kind of see what's different between the prequel and the timeline of True Colors once Alex arrives. In fact, before we go, let's take a quick look at the Steam page for the DLC that has a little bit more information for what we can expect from it. This even says that we will discover more about Steph's past and her relationships, and help her decide her future. So it will be very interesting to learn both where she's been and how her decisions about the future kind of segue into the timeline of True Colors once we meet Alex. Obviously, we'll be playing those in reverse order, much as we did with Life is Strange and then Before the Storm. But honestly, I think that can be a very interesting structure. So either way, I'm very excited. Also, in terms of the radio DJ elements, it says you will be able to choose records for the playlist, ad-lib your way through commercials, and even help Steph compose an original song. So it sounds like those may be kind of some of the elements, just like we got, Max's choices with her time rewind powers in Life is Strange, and then the talkback feature with Chloe in Before the Storm. This will kind of be specific elements that we can use for Steph in the radio booth. As well as the dating app element, it does say you'll be able to swipe left or right on dating app matches, which obviously will be very tailored to the player's specific preferences, which is very cool. It's a little more, we're just continuing to see a little more like flexibility and choice. Just as we already know in advance that in True Colors, you will be able to choose between Ryan or Steph for romance options. And it also says that Steph will reminisce about formative prides of her past. So I think obviously in the summer season, particularly, we will probably see more reflection about past relationships. I actually think that would be a great opportunity to kind of parse in some references to Chloe, since they developed a friendship, and also Rachel, since, we do know that Steph had a crush on Rachel back at Blackwell. So that will be very interesting. This also says that to add in some D&D flair, you will have the chance to use a D20 dice to give advice to callers to the radio station to help with their questions and their problems. You will be able to GM a tabletop session, presumably for Mikey, as we saw him in the video, in the trailer. And this also says, this is an interesting element that I wanted to touch on before we left. It also says you will be able to reach out to reconnect with an old friend. Now, obviously, most people are speculating that that just refers to Mikey. I will only touch on this briefly because I have not looked into it too much myself, but I do know I have seen some things where there was potentially a leak where some people think that there is the potential for Chloe maybe to show up in Wavelengths. I've only seen a little bit about it, as I said. The interesting element of that to me is that obviously Chloe's presence would be very determinant. The ability for her to even be present in Wavelengths would obviously be dependent upon the choice that the player made at the end of Life is Strange, whether you chose to sacrifice Chloe or sacrifice Arcadia Bay. It will be interesting to see if that leak turns out to be true. I don't know if it would be a thing where players would have a choice to input the choice they made at the end of Life is Strange, whether maybe that would inform, like maybe if you did save Chloe, she is an option and she appears in Haven Springs, or if you chose to save Arcadia Bay, maybe that segues more into Mikey being a larger part of the story, or maybe even another familiar face showing up. I don't know. I would love to hear any speculation you have about that. Like I said, I have not delved too deeply into that leak myself, especially since the game is going to be released within about a month now. I'm kind of just stepping back and enjoying it as it comes. So not like ferreting out all of the little like data mining and leaks and stuff. With all of that being said, we are now officially less than a month away from the release of True Colors and only a little over a month away from the release of Wavelengths. And honestly, I could not be more excited. I have already been waiting for this game ever since it was announced. So to have this DLC to look forward to on such a quick turnaround with one of my favorite characters in the series has only put my excitement levels even higher. That's just me personally, but overall I am very excited for this DLC in addition to True Colors itself now. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. I'm honestly just so excited for this game. I know every time I make one of these Life is Strange videos in particular, I get on here and just really nerd out because Life is Strange truly is one of my favorite game series of, I guess, the last decade or so. I just really enjoy the whole atmosphere and storytelling elements that they bring to things. So I could not be more excited for this. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please share any thoughts or speculation or theories you have down below about Wavelengths, True Colors itself as a whole. Really, any element of Life is Strange I will talk about at length. Feel free. But yeah, that is going to do it for us. I've been Randa. This has been the Southern Fried Nerd. And I hope you have a great day. See ya.